the CIP is working, but, you know, one of the things that we've struggled with is that the impact fees are delineated by school, sort of broken up. And I'm just wondering if it's possible in reviewing that to contemplate, and I don't know the pluses and minuses of this, but can there be one line for the school district? In other words, not breaking it out by 3 buildings, but a school district impact fee. We still would need to come forward for the approvals, but it would certainly, you know, what we've got is sort of 3 pockets right now that we're trying to work with, and if we had just that one line, we still would delineate exactly what the needs are based on that. So there may be a reason why when they wrote this that they break it out the way that they do, but just a request to consider that. I know as I was the treasurer for the town of Webster, and it was one line. It was the school impact fees, and so just something to contemplate and think about here. So.
Yeah, I don't know what the history was, but I do remember somebody said there was a reason why they did it back when Dan Mayberry, is it, originally did the impact fee structure.
Yeah, I don't know why. We were just looking at them earlier, right?
Well, it's my belief that they did it so that you didn't deplete the money for one project and leave the other 2 schools
Hanging.
With no money. So, again, I don't like this idea at all. I want to keep it separate so that each school has their own funds. Griffin's in need of a lot of work, and there's no question about that. And I would hate to see them, I mean, it's pretty much been let go anyways, but I would keep the funds as they are and use them in the appropriate schools.
Yeah, and that's, really, that wasn't our purpose tonight. I'm just
Yeah,
asking as we continue the development, if that's something to be considered, so.
Kim, as we meet with Jay, perhaps you could pose that question. What was the original intent with respect to impact fees identified by facility? And what's the impact of eliminating that connection?
And maybe Mr. Mayberry would speak with Jay on what the original thought process was behind it.
To me, that would be like taking all the town impact fees and just putting them under one roof.
Yeah, because
It'd be
we
the
do
same
break
thing.
them, we do break them up.
And we break them up by department, and
Yep.
so I don't think it's a good idea. Mr. Lynch, we haven't heard from you yet.
Who?
You.
I feel we have to look at the impact fee rules as they were written. This is something that they should have caught on last year, okay? And there's something missed in their financial program there. I think Bob is valid, but I want to make sure we're legally correct with that before I go any further. So I'd like to have Jay review it this week if we can. Okay?
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Excellent, thank you. We appreciate your consideration, and we'll wait to hear.
I have a couple more questions.
Sure.
Are you, with respect to impact fees, do you have any plans to offset the estimated 2023 deficit? What is the current estimated 2023 deficit?
So right now, we're focusing on closing out the books for '22. But it's a good point, Rich. There are impact fees that are available, and we would come forward to project forward on those. We would not be asking in arrears. So if we identify sources, we will definitely come forward for that. I'll give you an example. So impact fees at Campbell were used in 2 ways this summer. So one was the lighting project that's completed, up and going, turned out beautiful. And it was a combination of impact fee money and the seed grant that the district received from the state, or it's actually federal money that came through the Department of Energy. So those 2 sources made it so that there was no taxpayer impact because we were able to use those funds. In addition, we put these booster pumps in for the plumbing system. So now you can turn a sink on and a full stream of water comes out. You can flush a toilet and it's a full flush. It's not, I mean, we were having to flush the toilet 3 to 4 times in order to get enough water to actually drain. So these pumps have gone in, and the water pressure throughout Campbell is right where it needs to be. So that's an example where utilizing the impact fee money helped us. And I truly think, I mean, we don't know the exact source of the plumbing issue, but development in the neighborhood is suspected as the reason why the water pressure was low. And so this would have been certainly an appropriate use of that.
So our first thought, though, as far as the deficit that's coming this year, is to tighten our budget as much as we can to cover it that way, and not to hopefully ask the townspeople for any more money. Now, we can't see what's gonna happen this year as far as if there's gonna be other things that happen at schools that cost money, but our first thought is, let's tighten our budget, let's get the money that way, in order to cover it.
To that end, what we have explained to the board, it's my belief that when you create a problem, or you're part of a problem, it's your responsibility to clean that problem up. And so we are busy right now trying to own the problem and then find ways to fix the problem. There are some who have talked about a supplemental meeting to raise additional funds, and I don't think that's appropriate personally. The board ultimately will make that decision, Rich, but my advice and advocacy is that we created this, we clean it up. And so that's what we're attempting to do. So to Doug's point, if that means tighten your belt, it means tighten your belt.
I know in the past, and I haven't been involved, so I can't give firsthand knowledge, but I've felt that there wasn't enough transparency on the financial end with the budget committee and with the public. So I think that this situation goes a long way toward cementing that impression. I think moving forward, we have to make certain that we have ultimate transparency with whatever we decide to do, and whichever way it goes. So I think the public, and particularly the budget committee, needs to be fully informed at every step, every juncture of the way, so that everybody feels that they have a vested interest in what happens.
We appreciate that. I mean, I agree with you, Rich. There's never been an attempt to be non-transparent. And if we have not hit transparency measures that people have, then we'll work hard to get them met. That's our goal.
Like I say, that's not my impression. I just have heard that, so take it for what it's worth.
And my goal in presenting last week was to present with spreadsheets that people could look back on as well. And that was hopefully put together in a way that no matter if you have a finance background, math background or not, that you could kind of read along with it and kind of see where the money exactly went to. So that my goal was to show that transparency with those worksheets. And I'll continue to show transparency as I work on numbers.
I think that's the key thing for the upcoming meeting, is to be as transparent as possible, both in retrospect and going forward.
We agree, and I think the other thing that Doug has brought to this is utilizing the existing software. So we have software that drives our budget, and we should be pulling reports directly out of that software in order to explain where we stand. And so that's another piece, that those reports exist, and then making sure that they are clear and understandable by the public is the strategy that he has brought to the table and has done in the short time that he's been here. So we'll keep at that.
I will give you credit for getting reports out. The other night, I did watch a school board meeting, and Andrew Cutter said it best, that the reports is exactly what the budget committee had been asking for the longest period of time. And just, it was like talking to a brick wall. We got nothing from the school. So I give you a lot of credit for getting those reports out to us. hopefully it's the start of something a little bit better, because it's been a bad situation dealing with the school the last few years. You ask for information, you don't get it. You get it late, or you're told to look it up. That should never happen. Somebody asks the town for information, we give them the information, okay? Hopefully, you're gonna be that kind of BA, because we need that. Because the school's in trouble right now, and we need to fix it.
Yep, school is in trouble right now, but the school's an important part of that town, so yep, we do need to fix it. Yep.
And to echo that, I think, this cannot become a us versus them situation. It's our town, and we need to come together and figure out how to resolve this. At the end of the day, we've been heavily investing in fixing our failed infrastructure. You're right, Bob. GMS is in rough shape. So is LMS. The systems there had failed. We're fixing them. We're spending money. Roofs, windows, ventilation. That's what the oversight is in, fixing schools.
I will go down on record as saying the LMS project is an albatross. That was a huge wish list of Washington ideals with the solar and all this other stuff. We didn't need that. Do you drive an electric car?
I do not.
Okay, I mean, but we're being asked to give up, oil, electricity, this, that, and the other, and I even saw somewhere where they're talking about studying electric school buses. Why is it a good deal for the town to do this stuff and not the school? I mean, this is probably not the proper venue, but I'm just saying this, from the outsider looking into the school, it is always, don't ask us questions, we'll do what we need to do, and just leave us alone.
Bob, I've answered every question I've been asked, and honestly, the ventilation system, fresh air in the middle of a pandemic, that's what we're providing.
I have no
Windows that are
problem with that.
properly insulated and that you can see out, that's what we're providing. So let's just stay focused on the school was 40 years old, or 30, 35 plus years old, and it needed upgrades, and
Did
we
it need
provided
solar
them.
panels? Did it need solar panels?
It needs an.
No, did it need solar panels? That's a yes or no. Did it need them? It was money we didn't have to spend, the taxpayers didn't need to spend.
Well, you're gonna spend money to buy electricity,
You have a huge electricity budget in there now anyways.
understood, and we're gonna take
And
that
oil.
and use it to buy the solar. So I'm just saying that in the end, it's the same budget dollars that are being used. And, I think we're not gonna agree on whether it's a need or a want. What's needed is electricity to fuel the school, right? You need electricity to keep the lights on
And
and to
that's
keep
why we
the
have Eversource.
ventilation going, which just doubled and is gonna double again.
It
And
probably
so
will.
The solar will not. So I think in the long run, it will prove its merits, but
Until the capacitors go out, which will be about 8 years probably. And the architect at deliberative said 30. So we'll see how close that is.
Yep.
But I think it's an issue.
all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
so much for coming.
We won't be here Monday night because we'll be tied up next Monday. So we'll wait to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, have a good evening.
Too.
All right, next we have budget review, starting off with planning board, 4191.10. Ms. White.
Oh, Oscar, I just received a complaint, the broadcast is frozen. Who unplugged it?
Mr. Croto is here for me,
Good evening,
You
how are you?
okay?
trying to find planning.
Steve, will you do me a favor and turn the
Oh, Mike
temperature up
doesn't.
in this place? It's like a meat locker right now, I've been dying up here. Just push that button up a couple times if you could, please. I can tell you that John got in here before us.
I have a,
Thank you, Rick. That's where I usually
It
put
just
it.
got worse.
So,
I have a snide
I don't
comment.
know.
And
Do
for
you
the planning board
guys,
tonight,
Are you ready, Kim, for my
advertise for the
snide
planning
comment?
board meetings?
Let's hope
'Cause I
the
kinda
tying
lowered
up
that budget a
are not
little.
shackles.
Would you rather increase it?
Yeah, I
Leave
mean,
it where it
well,
was?
I think we advertise in
Okay.
the newspaper and.
So I'll leave it. I think I looked
Yeah, I
at
think-
what we've spent.
Yeah,
The-
there's really no change.
Litchfield street lighting rebate.
And I'll have to change my revenues back, which is fine.
Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Selectmen.
How have you been?
I have been very well, and yourself?
Okay.
It's kind of funny sitting back
Yeah, we
there
missed out later.
than up here, where you're sitting. So it's kind of a new view. My name is Michael Croto. I am the chair of the Litchfield Planning Board. I live at 6 Garden Drive. And I'm going to let Karen do the presentation. I really don't have anything to add. I'm just here for support. So I'll let her.
So there's not much that has changed in the planning board wages. And NRPC, we kept the same, and I think Joan checked, with Jay on that too. The public notices, we kept the same at $13.50, postage at $50. So really, everything is the same. The only thing that really increased were the wages for the, admin assistant. So that went up $641. I mean, I don't know if you're
It's like being flat.
okay or have any qualms or.
No, I mean, I spoke to the members of the planning board. We talked about the budget. They had really no questions. So we did try to discuss it, and everyone seemed to be comfortable with what was presented, so.
It looks like a really good budget, I'll say that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll be using some of that NRPC for the impact fees.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, you will.
And our SIP plan,
And our,
And yeah,
absolutely, so.
perfect. Looks
Yeah.
good to me. $641.
Gold Star.
Good.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you.
How was-
Sorry
how
you
was
had to
that?
wait that long.
It wasn't too bad.
It's a lot easier than coming before the planning board for something,
Yeah, I
I can
know.
tell you that.
So I've heard.
In the future, we like negatives better.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mike. Be well.
We got, what's next?
Zoning Board, 4191.30.
Bingo for that. All right, sorry.
next to it.
I gotta find zoning.
Oh, this one's even better.
So, yeah, I just kept theirs, flat. I didn't hear, so I didn't, change anything. And looking at the expenses there,
Wasn't that
Shouldn't
something
really
that they
be
were
any
talking about
change.
they needed?
zoning?
Yeah. Am I missing?
We get the law books every year. What else? They don't use software or
And
anything.
we still have that 10
Yeah.
of them, at $8 and,
Am I missing?
yeah, they just have the seminars and the public notices and.
Public
ads.
notice is usually the biggest piece of it.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, that's,
But-
yeah, that's their budget,
Yeah.
and 500 elsewhere, yeah. Okay, good.
And it actually got reduced, because in 21, it was
Yep, 32.
3280, but was there a change or something on how we could actually give notice?
Yeah, and I think that was more because of COVID, because that's what was our actual expense, and we didn't have the, what's the Hudson one? I
The-
want to say
well,
thumbs
the
up,
newspapers,
thumbs
yeah.
down.
Litchfield
So we
is
had to go with the
HLN,
union
yeah.
leader, yeah.
Yep.
So we had to go with the union leader.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
so
so
that
that's,
was a little more expensive,
okay.
and you don't know how many hearings you're gonna have,
Yeah.
so it's hard. Yeah,
Good.
I don't think we, in the past, had.
Kevin, you
very
good with that?
Yeah, I'm good. I hear it.
Yep, flat line, no increase.
0 is good.
That's zoning board and planning board is, 41 I can live with.
Yep,
All right, next, we got cemeteries, 4195.10.
All right,
Anybody here from cemetery?
cemeteries.
That's it.
anybody here from cemetery?
No, but I did, talk to, Jody Frazier, so I increased the water, a little bit going by, what they've spent.
Yep.
And,
How much is it?
build a monument repair, we kept the same.
Mhm.
The groundskeeping, we kept the same, there was something that I thought, oh, she had increased the cemetery groundskeeping by 1,000.
Was that due to the fall cleanup?
I think so, yeah. Yeah. But I don't know if Dalmatian, who does it, if his increasing.
Well, you got tree removal, fence
Yeah, I
repairs,
think it
road
was-
grading, et cetera, for
Yeah.
the increase.
Yeah,
Yep,
That's about right.
a little bumpy out there.
so, yeah, I don't know if Dalmatian is
Didn't win
increasing
budget?
any of his besides the 1,000 that they wanted to do,
I'm listening.
but
Okay.
Okay.
Are you in the portal all right?
there,
Okay.
that's what they wanted to change.
All right. Next is 4611.20, conservation. Welcome back.
Thank you.
We're cutting their budget, right?
We're gonna move it over to rec.
Want me to go through it?
Sure, if you want to, unless you want me to, see if we have the same numbers. All right, let's see, what did we do? So property management, we increased from the dollar, we went up to 1950. For, equipment maintenance, 500, fuel, 250, PPE and accessories, 200, paint, wood, supplies,
Okay, when you're done, I can speak to that.
bridge repair, kiosk repair, and landscaping at 1,000.
So, last year, we came in with a proposed budget where this line item was 1,900. And then that was cut by the budget committee. We're hoping that the board will allow us to try to get maintenance money in our budget for this year to help out with gas and the other supplies that are listed down here. I think the budget committee's stance is that they would like us to use the land fund to use to fund the gas and those types of things. And just to be frank, we don't do it because we feel as a commission, I think I'm speaking on behalf of the entire commission, that the land fund should be for land purchases and other major capital purchases that we have. Not for pens and pencils and a 2x4 from Lowe's and $5 worth of gas. So, we're gonna try to bring that to the budget committee and see what happens. The rest of the budget is pretty much in line with last year, but that's the major.
And I
piece
think
that's
we've
there.
supported that every year, and then it's just been zeroed, or $1.
Yeah,
So to keep the line item.
Usually the budget committee looks at, like, they tried to buy a four-wheeler and some other things, tools and things, that can come out of the big fund, and the other stuff can still stay with your regular.
We agree with that.
Yeah, yeah, because that was always a bone of contention. Certain people never wanted to spend the money.
And they always kept the buck in there to keep the line going.
Yep.
Otherwise, it was just mileage and tolls, that went up 100 from 50 to 150, and dues and subscriptions from 500 to 650. So I think the big one on the dues and subscriptions was SPNHF and online software subscription.
Right, there's, so we purchased, or when Matt was the chair, we purchased a online software subscription that we use to support mapping, and we're also using it to support stormwater mapping for the highway department. That fell underneath ours because we got the technical expertise in that area.
So there is up 2219. And mainly because of the property management that the budget committee cut out.
Kind of, yeah,
Yeah.
I think we support every year, so.
If you go to the budget committee when they're presenting these items, then you can speak your piece. And they're very understanding.
I'm gonna share something with you briefly. One thing that we're gonna bring into the budget committee this year, and hopefully at a future meeting I can spend 10 minutes on it, but we've developed two plans in the last 6 months. Number one is NRPC helped us develop a conservation plan, which really deals with inventorying what we have. And then internally, we developed that land preservation strategy that we've been talking about for the last year. And I'll distribute this to the board so you can take a look at it. But the long story short is this strategy helps us, provides a framework for how we would maintain, acquire, rank and prioritize properties across the town that we would potentially look at,
It just kind of gives us a framework for all of that. So we're not shooting arrows at the wall. We've actually got a process to go through, and that's what this does right here. So I'm gonna bring that to the budget committee, so like, hey, we spent a lot of time getting our act together for how we're gonna use these types of funds. This is the guidance for that, and then hopefully that will help us out a little bit.
Yep.
Give us some maintenance money.
Yep. Just a little bit, just gas. Yeah, that's it.
I have a challenge for you.
Uh-oh.
There was
I can drink 24 beers. No, I used to be able to.
It's not that type of challenge, but it actually affects the two of you. There was something very historic happened in the not very distant past here in Litchfield. And it was the claim to fame of our former chief of police, David Campbell, in that there was a Manson girl who had a party here in Litchfield in the 1977-1978 timeframe. And it was a huge party. And was it Linda Kasabian? Was that her name? I believe it was Linda Kasabian.
It was.
And
It was, correct.
David Campbell raided that party, threw the whole bunch in jail, and
Did they break the decibel level?
probably, but there was a campfire involved also. I'd like to know where that happened. And it happened fairly close to Moore's Falls. I'm not exactly sure. But-
It happened, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't it happen about where Mel's is?
No, it's up on the flatland, before St. Francis,
Yeah.
before they built all those homes there. Right
Okay.
across was Albuquerque, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
It was a work camp that the Colby family had.
Yep.
And they were workers at the time. Cause I went to it.
Yep. And it was the Hells Angels, right?
The Hells Angels came up, and we had a lot of police, state police, and Richard Riley, the sergeant, brought Linda to Nashua. And she's now back in New Hampshire.
Yep.
But I would like to find out where that is and to put a plaque there.
I'll look at the old maps. I'll find it for you.
Okay. Just make sure you have enough money in the budget for a plaque.
They actually had a bonfire and there was a no burn,
Yeah, that's right.
so.
That's what they got them on.
Yeah, Craig Young went up there with the fire engine to put the fire out, and they ended up turning the hose on him. And that's when all hell broke loose.
And Leo Savini.
And Leo Savini was there.
He kicked the side of the brand new fire truck, the guy,
Yep,
and he got a little upset.
yep.
So that's your challenge.
Good luck.
Make something up.
We good?
We're good.
I don't think
Good
you
job.
want a plaque.
Publicly thank Selectman Leary for the unbelievable job at the Old Town Hall. It just looks
It
tremendous.
gleams. It gleams. It really does,
Really,
Robert.
really good.
Only took a year.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's not a year yet. I still have a month and a half.
Next, we have Parks and Recreation, 4520.10. Good evening, Mr. Gannon. Always good to see you, too.
How are you? Steve Gannon, Chairman of the Rec, 12 Nesson Cake Drive. Not that you really need my address, but, so as we know, last year was a tough year for Talent Hall. In the winter, we ended up having heating issues ended up having frozen pipe issues, and it's just been a tough year. The fields have struggled this year because of the drought, and they don't look as good as they did last year. So I'm gonna let you know, my budget's gonna go up a little bit, but the intent is to hopefully offset some of the damage that has been done and prevent it from happening again. So Karen and I will work together. We're kind of throwing some numbers back and forth. The first one, custodial wages isn't gonna change. It didn't go down much this year, wasn't really hit that much because the janitor was ill for a period of time. So we'll keep that there. Electricity,
propane and water, I'll let Karen throw out the numbers that she figured.
Yeah, so, electricity, I've been waiting for our Eversource bills to see how much they went up, but it looks like we're contracted with Consolidated for, our supply, or however that works. I wish I did it at home, but, I don't think we should see a big increase, cause I don't think that was affected as much as Eversource was. So we did, I did try and increase them by 5%, just, in case. I'm waiting for another,
Well, the
bill to come
electricity,
in.
didn't we get locked in with
For
other
Consolidated.
with other
Yeah.
towns, right?
Yeah.
And there was a certain percentage was the most it could go up in 1 year.
Oh, there was?
And we
Yeah,
signed that
it's involved
last
in
year?
that.
Last year,
I think
yeah.
it was last year, and it was either
And there was a
5 years?
certain percentage, because we do get these quarterly checks as a rebate
Yeah.
that goes into our, revenues.
Can you go
or,
back and try to pull that so we can, I may
yeah.
even have it somewhere. I'm just curious, because I knew there was only a certain percentage it could go up
It could go up.
year over
okay.
year.
Well, there's a $6,000
Well, then that would be good to look.
Eversource rebate tonight.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, we missed that. So that was the rebate for the street lighting that we had done.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, not for the towns, but for the street lighting, we had expected like 3,000 to 45, but we got over 6,000, for that rebate. When we
So that might give us
converted.
some insight though on electricity if we go back and pull that
Yeah, all right,
contract.
I'll look
on
it
what
up.
the increase could be.
Okay, yeah, cause I did 5%, theirs we did a little bit more because it seemed to be running high this year. And then, propane, we got locked in at 2.25, a gallon.
Wow.
And so, we did the average, for their propane.
Who's the supplier on that?
Propane is, I'm not sure offhand.
$2.25.
That's
Yeah,
really good.
we were 185 last year, it went up to 225.
It's still really
I
good,
think
though.
it's something energy.
Just, to the board, Kevin Lynch. When we did the propane in the past, the school was part of it too. We got a better price, the town did.
Yeah, but I saw an email from Troy and asked, because I don't think the school had locked in yet at the time, asked if we could lock in separately.
Okay.
And I think we were able to
I think
do
that's
that,
right.
actually, I
Yeah,
had that
happened.
email.
So how many different places do we use propane?
Just talent.
Talent halls all?
Oh, in town?
In town?
Quite a few.
Yeah, town hall,
Yeah, we
police,
did-
old fire station, highway garage, fire station, old fire station, dog kennel, and town hall.
Yeah,
But for rec, it's only talent.
so better than oil.
So the Puppy Palace has propane?
Yep.
Yeah,
Gotta keep those puppies warm.
Somebody asked me the other day if that was still in use, and I couldn't answer.
it is, but I don't know how many
I don't know the
dogs
last time
they
they've
put
had
in
one,
there,
yeah.
but it is still.
But it
Yeah,
is
it's still
usable.
there, used, cleaned, yeah.
I mean, we share the Londonderry officer, right?
No, we have our own animal.
Oh, we have our own,
Oh, yeah, we've had Jerry for a long time.
and they use, so
High cod.
probably it just gets put on the What's Up page, and that eliminates the need for that.
Oh, that we have, yeah. Yeah, I think Jerry's been doing it since the 90s or 80s, a long time.
When a dog is found in town, it's usually brought back to the station. It is posted typically, and the owner is usually found fairly quickly. I think in this year alone, I think the kennel's been used 3 times, so I can think.
Yeah.
Wow. I hope we're not running propane to keep those 3 dogs.
They keep it, what, like 50 until they get one, it's
know.
way down.
I thought they don't run it. I thought they were doing the recycled oil to keep that.
Maybe.
We keep it to heat it there because of the plumbing.
Yeah, the plumbing's easy.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Water's been significantly higher this year for some unbelievable reason.
Really?
Yeah, we went back, well,
And here's the best part, we've turned the water main off.
but this was earlier in the year when we looked at the budget, right? That there was a couple months that were really high for some
But
This
reason.
water is only talent hall. The irrigation is pumps and wells.
Yeah.
So for some reason, after the water froze last year and we had it repaired, it nearly doubled. And I monitored the meter and it's not leaking anywhere. It's
And
just,
Steve went down and did a flow test and it was accurate.
yeah, throws out a lot of water.
Yeah.
But it's,
quickly, too.
Building repair and maintenance, we're at what, 43 last year. I'd like to increase it to 45. This kind of goes into the idea that I'd like to do some things to town to make it a little more efficient, such as get rid of the 40-gallon hot water tank that warms, that's used for 2 sinks. I'd like to look into getting a on-demand electric that we could use. Then we don't have to worry about the pipe running underneath the stage and going upstairs, and no one uses the kitchen, so we could maybe move the mop sink, or we'll figure out what to do with it. Also, tie it into the water, get low-flow toilets and stuff like that. Last year, we found out that just the flapper valves were running.
Yep.
You know, nobody was in there during COVID, so we don't know how long they were running, but it's, all those utilities or all those fixtures really need to be upgraded and make them more energy efficient. So when we're not using the building, it's not costing us money. Trash container services, this is another one that caught me off guard. Originally, we made a change where we are gonna put all just smaller 4-yard dumpsters.
Yep.
But it ended up costing us more, so we did work
Mine's
with Dave
dead.
on that one.
And we went to 5566, is that what we did with that?
Is that what, 5566? Yeah, up from 32.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big increase.
Well, we picked up a couple more that used to be picked up by
Yeah.
Sporting, but
Sports.
still Dave negotiated us a rate and we got rid of the big one at Dara, right?
Right.
Went back to a 4-yard one.
Right.
So surprising that it's up that much.
Yeah, and we're gonna work with Dave to figure out, my anticipation, the numbers I saw is if we got rid of the big one at Darrow, went to a small one, that cost would offset picking up the other 3.
3, yeah, I remember when we ran through that, and
Yeah.
Dave got a great price for us through Waste Management because of all the tonnage he does that way.
I think some of it is because, they weren't on a schedule, so they've been sitting out there year round and not being picked up in the winter.
Good.
I'll sit with Dave to see what we could do. Chemical toilet rental, this is actually gonna be a decrease. We have a new resident in town who has submitted a quote with me, and it'll be a savings of $352 if we accept it. I'm gonna send that information over to Miss White, and she could review it. Small company based out of Dracut. Like I said, he just moved into town, and he would be very responsive. He went around and looked at all the sites where we already have toilets, so the quote he provided is to replace what we have, and he provided the cost difference when we have like a special event.
Will he put in concrete pads first? So they don't
I
get
talked
tipped
to him
over?
about that because tipping fees are like $50 or $100. So I asked him, you know, I'd like to work with you, make concrete pads. He says, you know, it's a great idea. I'll definitely help you build pads and save us that cost.
Oh,
and
perfect.
Prevent that irritation. Public notices and ads, we never use this. Our latest round of submitting RFPs, sending RFPs, is we do direct solicitation through emails. We did it before, sending in the union leader, but we didn't get any responses. So we'll keep it at 70, we'll drop it from 150 to 75 and keep it there just in case. But I think that's one of those things that is going to go away. General supplies, left it where it is. Equipment repair and maintenance, left that where it is. Field maintenance, once again, we have not heard back from our current contractor on if they wish to extend the contract. The deal we have is a 1-year contract and then 2-year possible extension. The first year allows us to get out if we don't like what's going on. It also allows them to come back to us and say, you know what, I need to renegotiate it. So I'm kind of expecting that to go up a little bit this year. It's at 87. I'm thinking it's gonna hit about the 90,000 mark. Field improvement, this has been set at $1 forever. A couple of years ago, we set it at $1. This is one I'd like to fund at 2,500. Some of it is one of the reasons why our fields look like they do is because a lot of the irrigation heads are damaged, or they're being clogged, or the well pumps are, need to be serviced, and they're not being done. If you look at Dara Pond right now, or the fields at Dara, they're as brown as this table. And a lot of it is just because the pump cannot put out enough flow to water the grass. So that's one of those that, you know, I'd like to be able to, get some maintenance done and replace heads on a regular basis.
Cause all the heads were replaced last year.
At
but we-
Darrow- at Darrow,
At
yeah.
Darrow, but we still have that flow issue out there, there's just not
Yeah,
enough water
yeah.
for it.
And I got notified of, you know, a couple of the irrigation heads at Sawmill aren't going down.
Yep.
You know, so it's kind of an indicator that we're gonna start. having
We
problems
have two at Darrow that we have to go address. And one of them is leaking, so I think it might be the ball valve itself.
again. Okay,
We've tried to do it, that's the one behind the pitching plate on the 12U field. And then the head itself is broken down at the 10U field.
Oh.
And those are the ones you just reach into a handhold and turn on, so we're not,
yeah, yeah.
you know, it's not hurting anything. They just use it to water down the infields.
That's something that we could just replace ourselves.
Might be able to just dig it up and put a new head in there. But the leaky one, we may have to go back and look at the ball valve and see what's going on.
Yeah, we'll have Andy talk to Alliance and, equipment purchases, we have a 320, I'd like to bring that up to 600. Once again, so we could purchase items to maintain the property, like a post hole digger to put more fences in, maybe a rototiller, et cetera, going forward to rototill the, baseball fields. Furniture fixtures, nothing there. Mileage reimbursement, it's been at $1. I'd like to bring that up to 150 to cover, fuel cost and as other equipment, so that the volunteers are not spending all their own money and they could have something to be reimbursed by. Last one is program expenses, that's at 18, I'd like to bring that up to 2,000. The program expenses are about what we use for Spirit of Litchfield, so, we have the Fall Festival coming up in 2 weeks, Christmas in Litchfield. The fishing derby was a huge hit, so we want to increase that. I think next year we're going to start seeing more events coming forward. So this money is used to help seed that and help kick off those situations. So all in all, I think it's up about $10,000, a little more
I
than
have
10,000.
12,464.
12,464.
Yeah, so maybe we can just review and make sure, but I have 12,464.
You have 1264?
I have 12,464.
Well, I got 9965.
Did yours not? It might not if I was changing on the go.
Yeah, I got 12,464 in mine. But I mean, if you really look at it, the big increases are propane,
Electricity and water.
electricity and
Yeah.
water.
Utilities.
Yeah,
And I think if we can get into town hall, and, like I said, get rid of the hot water tank, go to on-demand and go to low-flow toilets and replace all those. We've always had the argument about putting good money after, you know, we don't know what we're gonna do with talent, but I think if we put money into it now, at least we'll see an offset. One of the other issues we have is, when the the propane goes out, there's electric heaters in the bathrooms to keep the pipes from freezing, but they're pretty much on or off. And I've spoken with a local electrician, actually Jolt, and he said he could probably put something in that would be, thermostats, but they'll be in like the office or remote location, so they'll do a better job at, you know, maintaining the temperatures instead of, you know, cranking it on, then you go in there.
You go to those bathrooms, some days it's 90 degrees in there.
It's, we did look at, last year, we had the propane thermostat changed out, so that it would actually function, but that faulted out and ended up causing more headache than it was even worth.
That's still a good building. I mean, it needs a little bit of love, but it's a good building. The floor needs to be addressed.
We have had, Chris Burns on our commission, had a company come out and look at possibly putting like a rubber mat over the top of it. He actually had to come out and look at the, basketball, the
Tennis courts.
Tennis courts. And also, when he was there, the guy looked at the, putting a layer on the basketball court at Talent. And we need to get somebody to climb underneath to see if we couldn't do the work and if it'll support it.
And they stuck their head into that and they thought it was pretty decent.
Pretty decent, yeah. Chris wouldn't climb down.
There's no way Chris would even fit down there.
I think it needs supports.
I fell through the floor there once, and,
How did it look when you were down there?
I'm just happy that I didn't straddle one of those beams, you know, those beams are like that, you know, and they go down about 4 feet. That wouldn't have been so good, but,
True dimension lumber.
I can't imagine, you know, covering the floor, I can see, but replacing I can't see that floor is worn out.
So we've asked about having it refinished, and the guy that used to do it, I think actually moved, he said that it cannot be refinished again. He cannot sand it any further. So we'd have to strip it all apart and then put a new wood floor on it.
But they do have stuff that you can put down, like a rubber cover.
Yeah,
or
that's
Yeah,
what-
yeah, that's what we are considering.
And that
It's-
might be preferable.
Yeah. When the guy did poke his head underneath, he said, it looks like it was, cement pillars and stuff. So from just his initial observation, he thinks it's still a strong sounding structure.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It was still, I think, what, $30,000 to
Yeah.
put the cover down?
But in the interim, we should give it a good washing.
Yes, I did
Often.
reach out to a couple people and
Yeah.
I didn't know where the budget was going after the propane, so I didn't follow up.
In the water.
Water.
How many months of the year is talent used?
It is,
Oh, yeah.
no, actually during the summer it's too hot, so it'll crank up now, with, basketball, the soccer's in there, not soccer, softball, baseball go in there for practices if if the weather's not outside, nice outside, and it'll run probably till May.
March, May, yeah. It's from November 1st on, it's heavily used.
Yeah.
But then pickleball uses it.
Pickleball uses it
Use it almost every day.
except in the summer.
They don't use it in the summer.
Yeah, it's too hot.
And then basketball will start up and they'll use it every day from like 5 to 9 o'clock at night, Monday through Fridays, and then Saturday mornings.
Yeah.
And then usually baseball, softball, they come in, and soccer use it all day Sunday.
Yeah,
So
it's-
in the fall and winter, it's used a lot.
Methinks we've gotten our money's worth.
Oh, yeah.
That building was in disrepair when Mr. LaSalle was on the rec commission. And he's the one that started bringing it back from the dead. And he deserves
That's
a
when
lot
I
of
fell
credit.
through the
And I
floor.
think Mr. Brennan gave it the last paint job.
It was 2008, the Litchfield girls softball painted that building. Needs another coat now.
It sure
Trying
does.
to keep breathing life into it, and that's all we could do.
It's a good building.
I mean,
It's got a
it's-
lot of history there.
Absolutely.
Any questions?
No,
Thank you.
thank you.
Steve,
What's the senior barbecue?
I took that.
Rich and I could be hungry that day.
Wrong type of senior.
Yeah,
What?
I took that off. It used to be
Don't look at me.
somebody from, like, one of the over 55s, they used to do one and have something down at the
Oh, really?
Presbyterian Church. And, what was her, Betty?
Oh, yeah.
Betty
There were two
Darling.
sisters.
Yes, yes. And so we paid for their lunch, but they haven't done that in years. Long time. I think she passed away.
We used to have barbecues in town.
And dances every Friday night.
Used to be dances.
At the Grange.
All right, next we have information technology, 4150.20.
That's where Robert was conceived,
The Grange. I was in a silo.
in one of those dances.
Mosquito District, 441120.
Oh,
I don't think anything changed
Steve, you
in
didn't
that
hear
one.
that.
I gotta
What?
find
what
it
happened
now.
to IT?
John's gonna go last, he said.
Robert was conceived at.
Yeah, I have no changes. I contacted them and got, a new contract, and it seems like we carry a little bit more just in case, you know, maybe if they find something, and then general supplies. I left it the 100 that we did this year, so there's no change in that one.
Good. All right, next we have general
government
governmental
building.
facilities, 419410.
This is like a ping pong match.
Yeah, let's see what I did with that one. So the custodian wages, are the same. The fire, so I have to go back and look at the electrical and see what, our increase may be, or the most it can go up, but I increased that by 1,125. Propane, increased, up to the 225 a gallon. I kept the water the same. The meeting house, electricity, that's a reimbursement, and we do collect revenue, you know, that goes into the revenue when they pay us back. Building repair and maintenance, I did the 3-year average, so I increased that. The container services, I went back and looked through that, and those are 307 a month, so that increased a little bit by 228. I think the big thing is gas. I mean, I went by what they're thinking it's gonna be at 359. I don't know if it will stay there, go up, go down, but that's what I did. So there's an increase of 10,000 there.
That's a big one.
Diesel, I dropped a little bit. I went to 414 against the sheet that's attached there. And it seems to be 64 gallons that we do, so I
Buddy?
decreased that a little bit. Custodial supplies, I did the 3-year, average on that, so that increased by 782. So that's up by $17,059. The main thing is gas.
Yeah, 10,000 of it is.
Yeah,
Seems to be a common theme.
yeah.
Utilities.
Utilities. Yeah.
Okay. Now we'll circle back to information technologies. 4150.
What's the
Hopefully
number
I
on
know
that?
what I'm doing.
4150.20.
Good evening again.
Good evening, welcome back.
Thank you. I guess we can start with 110 wages. That's an increase over last year by $539. That's related to the 2% increase in my contract.
Just went to the bottom line.
Right there. Just as a side note, I'm still averaging about 38 hours a week on a 24-hour-a-week paycheck.
That's pretty short.
Yes. And it's,
I think that's a low estimate, John.
I would say more.
my wife would agree with you all. Weekends and nights are always fun. But anyway, line 341, which is telephone and data. Small increase of, well, there's an increase of $5,280, and I'll explain that. Our consolidated line, which is our phone, broadband services around the town wide, that stayed stable. It's based on a run rate. The biggest thing, the increase is actually in the Verizon Wireless, which is our wireless carrier. And it really aligns to something that's at the bottom of the my budget, but it's basically an increase of about $440 a month for additional services for the police department. Again, an increase of, like I said, $5,280 to that bottom line. And I'll explain that a little bit more in detail in the bottom. Moving to 342, this is pretty well flat from last year. Most of our services that we have were increased last year. There is one notable increase that's significant, which is $10,000 to our Google services. As everybody knows, we use Google services or Google Suite or Workspace. Obviously, it's driven by usage, but also more importantly, it's been driven by the need to actively archive more of our stuff that goes on in the town, and that's requiring us because of legal issues and so on. So, this is creating a requirement for us to move from what we're at today, from a level of a packaging service, to the next one up, which is what they call Business Plus, I believe is what it is. That'll give us some additional storage for long-term storage, plus allow us to take all of our elected officials and vault their email. Okay, so that's the main driver. I held the usage, the seat count to a number that I projected last year. I think I increased it by 5. We're holding steady at $130 right now, so as far as people go. So that's what that.
Now, do you have to pay per seat, or is it blocks of seats?
It's per seat.
Per seat.
So it can roll. If I drop somebody off, they just fill the seat, right? So
Yeah.
as people come and go, the number I don't go above
Yeah.
our normal account.
I didn't know if it was a block, like
No.
1 to 50, 51 up.
No, I think I explained this last year. When I started Google Services with the town, I went and got certified from Google. So the town pays what they call a partner rate, which is not the street price. So I think it's like a $5 or $10 discount that if you go out off the street. So you guys pay the bill. I don't really care what goes on at that. So it's a pass through. So that's that. So 630. This is where some of the increases, the larger part of the increases are, which is basically around our equipment maintenance and equipment maintenance. When you go down the line, the only change comes back when we enter into the maintenance required for our communication system. So we constructed a whole new communication system, brought it online. It's been online for about 1.5 years. We have now come out of the warranty period, so all the manufacturer warranties are gone, and now we have to maintain. And the maintenance basically requires yearly inspections, tower climbs, bolt adjustments, what they call ARF sweeps and all that. That program typically is $20,000 a year. We invested in what we call field replaceable units, so we actually have spare parts on premise if we have a failure, so that helped us there. But what I've also negotiated with the company was to knock it down in half. I'm first call. When something happens to the system, I'm the one that goes and troubleshoots it, investigates it, and then calls them if I can't solve the problem. So $10,000 is the vendor cost. $5,000 is the commitment that they'll show up on time, within 4 hours, deal with that, conduct those yearly inspections. The other $5,000, what they call consumables, that'll happen during that event, right? That $5,000 may be less some years, maybe more some years. It just depends on what kind of failures happen over time. And the failures are water damage in the feed lines, bad antennas, things like that, right? So,
What's the hardware technology?
what's that?
The hardware technology, what drives the system?
So the system is made up of 4 locations. It's all Motorola communications gear. It's
Okay.
based on, we actually have 2 different systems. We have what we call two VHF systems, which is police and fire, and a UHF system that we've extended to DPW, the school, rec. Anybody who wants to use it can use it. It's actually a shared environment. And we have sites at Rocky Hill, which is up off of Colonial Drive, which is the water tower. So we have a 100-foot tower there maintained. We have generators up there, that kind of thing. And then we have other sites at Old Town Hall, Darrah Pond, and Morgan. Those are the 4 sites that make up the environment.
So, do we have any way of knowing the usage on it? I mean, is there any meter functionality at all?
Meter, no meter functionality. We record all of our public safety communications, so we can see the traffic there,
Okay,
so,
but anything other than public safety?
no.
I mean, that's the majority of the system, though, is public safety.
The majority is public safety. The UHF system we put up was to help bridge for emergency events, and we were able to extend it to DPW and improve it. If you want to listen on the time, listen to DPW, it's entertaining.
Is there a channel that you can listen?
There is today, although I think it may be turned off, but.
I will say that the communication tower at Old Town Hall, when I go in there, my Wi-Fi automatically goes to it, and then I get nothing.
Which Wi-Fi are you
It
going
says
to?
Litchfield something or other.
Oh, that's coming off the old fire station, Litchfield NH.
I have no idea, but I got nothing. I throw rocks at that tower every day.
It's not the tower. It has nothing to do with it.
That's
So
why the
that's,
building got painted,
just
the
like,
phone didn't work.
just like when you come into this building, we broadcast the wireless network called Litchfield NH.
Yeah.
When you get there, you're supposed to go to a webpage and accept the splash page. If you don't do that, you get nowhere. You have to accept the terms.
The hell with that.
If you give me your phone, I can fix it so it doesn't do it for you anymore. So yeah, that's the communications, the communications program basically to maintain the system. Additionally, is another $897 for yearly maintenance of the generators. We have 3 generators now that we maintain at these sites that have no power. They're off the grid basically for the most part. And then a $1,500 line item for subscribers. The subscribers are everything that's the car radios, the antennas in the cars, little portables, batteries. I just had to buy a bunch of batteries, both fire and police, $1,000 for like 12 batteries. It's expensive.
Yeah.
So we don't buy that many batteries, but they do fail, and some of our batteries are getting at their life expectancy, so we've been cycling through. All right. That's that. Moving to 740, which is equipment purchase. So there's some new items here. We'll walk them through. So our computer replacement program, as we've been doing since I started this role, we replace 5 computers every year, cycling through our 55+ computers every year get replaced. So basically, computer gets about 5 years, it gets retired. Sometimes it'll get retired to a lesser job, maybe a kiosk, something like that, or it gets just retired and disposed of correctly. Challenge here is that what I used to pay $975 per unit is now at $1,275.
Oh, really?
Last year, we didn't increase the cost, but when we went to try to buy our 5 computers, I had to only buy 4. Because the costs are up there.
Same functionality?
Yeah, they're pretty much the same equivalent from a like.
Same
from
software and
Yeah,
so
same
forth.
spec, yep, same spec.
Because I was under the impression that hardware had gone down.
No. No, and because of the high demand, the long lead times, like the 4 computers I bought last year, or this year actually, I ordered them in, right after the vote. I started getting them in, well, first part of August, I received 3 of them. So. Now, prices may come down eventually at some point in time too. We always have to readjust, but that's what the estimate is for next year. And we do have, unfortunately, we have probably 8 computers in the line that should get replaced. So we only can do 5. Second line is a new request. Basically, in the police department, we have 2 locations that require a lot more screen real estate. Our dispatch center, currently today, is running off of 2 small monitors. They need a lot more real estate with the CAD environment they have, the reporting, what they call spots, and all that. So basically, we're trying to move into a stacked wide computer, right, or monitors. That's 2 of them there. And then we have our detective. Our detective is on a standard 27-inch monitor. He needs to go a little wider because when he's doing investigation, especially when he's doing evidentiary verification from dumps from cell phones and that kind of data, there's a lot of spreadsheets side by side. They're comparing data, and it's just not enough for screen real estate for him. So we want to try to accommodate that if we can. He's been doing a lot of it lately. It drives me absolutely crazy because I get tons and tons of data coming in this building every day because of it. So the request is for 3 these monitors. The going street price right now is $850. Hopefully it doesn't change. So $25.50 is what I'm asking for there. The next line is overhead speakers. So in the police department, there is an old overhead speaker system. And the purpose of that speaker system was so you can hear the radio. You can hear someone call, hey, we got a call down the hall, versus yelling down the hall, pick up the phone and dial it, and hope someone picks the phone up. It was always an overhead system. That's been defective for a while, and it's been something on the punch list to get replaced. So we're looking to kind of replace what they have with a system that we actually can integrate with the phone system plus with the radio so that they can actually pick the phone up and do the, hey, sergeant, whatever, call on the line 2, pick up the call. And then 2, just constantly hear the radio throughout the whole building. Today we have a couple of spots where they can hear it, but there's places in the building they can't hear it. For example, the chief cannot hear it in his office. The captain cannot hear it in their office. We want to put a speaker into those offices where they can turn the volume down.
Don't they all have,
Not all of them. The patrol officers will be carrying their radios with them all times, yeah. But you're talking about administration or someone, the detective working in his back office, he won't hear the radio. And then just a continuation of we had started this last year, the in-car computers, what we call MDTs. They were installed, majority of them are 8 years old plus. They've need to be replaced. We had 2 purchased last year. Actually, ended up having to do 1 because the price went so high. And secondly, the other one had to get taken out of the loop to go and replace one to go into the new cruiser. As you probably know, they went from 5 frontline cruisers to 6 frontline cruisers. And that was equipment that we had to kind of divert over to that 6 cruiser. So we're just basically asking for the two MDTs to replace, continuing that process. The price did increase by about $2,000 for the 2, so it's up from 9 to 11 and change. Okay. Replacement of 2 firewalls. So in this complex, we have the firewalls are what protects us from the outside. So all of our traffic goes through these firewalls to get to the internet. We actually use a lot of services on the internet, so they're important. The one that's here is our oldest, but it's actually providing dual responsibility. It connects us to all the state services, plus in general, people going out to Google and stuff like that. The one at the fire station, we had recycled one we had at the old fire station, so that's actually now beyond its life expectancy, so we need to replace that. So this is, that's 5 times, by the way.
100%.
I hope he's okay.
he's
That's
in
the
worse
first
shape
time
than
I
I am.
Wash your hands, Kevin.
That's the first
Yeah.
time.
So these would actually replace our 2 operational firewalls.
There is a mute button.
Renew them, and that's for $9,448 That's with a 5-year license, and so there'll be no additional cost after that.
Do we have any vulnerabilities, in your opinion?
Users?
Yeah,
Did I
it's
say
the
that
biggest
right?
one.
Number one.
It truly is the
Number one,
biggest
it's
one.
users.
Yeah.
Users.
Okay.
So, I'll jinx myself by saying anything like that, but, we have a lot of tools in place to protect even the users, but users are the weakest link in everything, right? So no matter how much I protect the borders, if someone comes in with a flash drive that has something on, they plug it in, that creates a challenge. We educate continuously. Whenever I'm aware of any kind of vulnerability or an exploit that's occurred or something that other agencies may be seeing, I send out broadcast messages, I talk to people, don't open up any attachments you don't expect, that kind of stuff. So education is the best tool we have, but every machine is protected, several layers of protection. We don't have any privileged users, so if someone got infected or had a problem, potentially just affects them, not anybody else, right? But if someone had the keys to the transfers of treasury dollars, that could be a challenge, but I think we're fairly well protected. And our staff knows really well what not to do. I get phone calls all the time. I got this weird email. Should I open it? No. We'll double check it. So I think we're in good shape. But again, I don't want to jinx myself. I'm going on vacation. I thought I was. Next is, so you heard earlier the administrative chief talk about, the interim chief talk about our video systems within our the dashboard, we call our dashboard cameras.
Yep.
Those were installed when I started here, we started doing this about 8 years ago, and majority of them are now beyond their life expectancy. But it's actually a good indicator, because if you think about what he proposed to you folks, the body cameras, and you're talking about a 5-year warranty, we actually expect we'll get more than 5 years out of these devices, right? Even if the body worn ones, because they're worn on a body, they're not gonna be thrown around, tossed around. So we think we'll get longer. These units, same manufacturer, I have some that are almost 10 years in service, and I got others that are 8 years in service. Now, none of them are covered by any kind of programs now. If they break, I gotta pay dollars to fix it. But the technology is also changing, and so they're coming to the point where they're not gonna be software supported anymore, so we need to start replacing them. So I'm looking to replace 2 of those units this year, 2 units next year, and and 1 unit in the 3rd year. That will replace the fleet that was original, and the rest is all net new stuff coming in. Right, and that's $12,900. So I talked to you about in the data services line. I said this is something why the Verizon costs are up. So with the police department, everything is discoverable, right? And so today, when an officer goes on scene, is taking pictures of an accident scene, or maybe a voice recording of an interview or something like that on their personal phone, it exposes their personal phone to search.
Yep.
And there's been lots of recommendations that officers should not be using their personal devices, even though it's convenient. So what the department's been asking is, can we fit out the cruisers with basically a car phone, a phone that's assigned to the cruiser. When they go on shift, they take it with them. That's the phone they use for all communications, all pictures, and so on and so forth. And then assigning, there's 11 phones in the program, so there'll be 6 assigned to cruisers, and the rest would be assigned to the chief, the captain, the detectives, the 2 sergeants. Because those folks are the ones that would be on call, and they would probably be responding from home, or potentially someplace where they wouldn't be in a cruise that would have a phone. And so the startup fees for that is acquiring the 11 phones at roughly about $650 a phone. And then the supporting equipment, charging stations and all the cables and harnesses, all that stuff, about $1,000. So I'm estimating about $81.75 to get that program started for them. Phones may be cheaper in the sense of how we can buy them. Depends on the cycle. We buy phones through Verizon typically, and we typically can sign deals where the phones may be half the price. It just depends on when we hit the cycle. Now, new phones were just announced, so that may give us some benefit to reduce that cost, but that was the price as of when I did this budget. second to last, this is the 5-year lease agreement we just talked about earlier. This is just the increase based on that for this new term, the new 5-year program we talked about. Alright, and then additional UPSs, I keep on coming back, I keep on having to replace UPSs and I need more, so I just called it out, cause those are getting expensive too. I used to be able to buy them in, 5 packs for $500, now it's costing me $800 for the same 5 packs.
What?
For UPSs, battery backups for your computers. This building doesn't have a dedicated backup system, so every computer that is critical has to be on a battery backup.
How many critical computers do we have?
Pretty much all of them.
Wouldn't it make sense to have a centralized backup system?
It's very costly.
Really
It's
costly.
very costly.
Very costly.
Yeah, it's very costly, but, it does open up a conversation. One of the things I wanted to ask the board about, and this, Steve, I wanted to talk because of CIP, the building generator here is 22 years old.
Yeah.
And it's time to replace it. Because every time they come out to do some kind of small repair, they find they can't get a part and they get a makeshift part. So something I think about, we gotta look at from a CIP perspective, I believe. And I'm getting estimates anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 just because of the switchgear. Because they have to replace
100%.
all of
Then
it.
the lead time's gonna be way out.
Right. So,
How about the generator at the old fire station? How old's that one?
I don't know, but it's a consumer version. It's not it's a small generator. Well, it's a larger generac. I think it's a 12K, but
Yeah.
that wouldn't even run this building.
Probably run the emergency services of the building, but not the.
No.
You don't even think so?
No, because you gotta remember,
Got that much IT load and everything?
the primary IT load is in this building.
Mm-hmm.
If plans ever worked the way they were gonna work, they would actually get shifted to the PD and fire station and then connect over here, but, primary load's over here.
Okay.
And then if you think about the police department, it'd be fully operational. That's all that computer load. That's where the predominant of the computers are from that resource. And then, I wouldn't expect it to run very well. Especially when you got HVAC running and stuff, because this runs HVAC, runs everything, so. If it was just computers and we didn't care if it was sweated, it'd be fine, so. So that's pretty much it.
To the tune of 71,660.
I rounded up, $72,000 the increase over last year. And as I said earlier, I'm not gonna be here next week. And there is some IT items in the PD budget that I can talk to, but I don't know if you want, we can always carry it after the fact.
Yeah. I mean, but you gotta think about it, you're 71, almost 42 of it is in 740.
Yes.
And a lot of that's all new expenses.
Yeah, and it's actually, all of it'll be, it's one time and then it goes
Yeah.
away, yeah.
Technology goes up every year.
I don't do it on purpose.
No, but I'm just saying, technology itself goes
yeah.
up every year.
Somebody had to break the bubble.
I know. I said, this is great, flat, flat, flat. Nope, not flat.
I gave him a teaser, and you pushed it.
He shoved it.
Yeah, unfortunately. I will suggest that, there's room here to, if there's end of year dollars left, to basically pre-buy it and then take it off next year's budget, right?
We've done that in the past, especially
Right.
for radios and stuff.
Right, we have, and I just wanna make sure it's called out. If I find the ability to do it, even in my own budget, although my budget's becoming pretty tight right now, because I've had several high dollar amount unexpecteds. So, but, that
And that
being said.
happens with old technology. It
Yeah,
fails.
well, when someone power washes the wall and it wipes out a $2,000 intercom, yeah, it does. You know,
Who did that?
I don't know. I don't know what happened. I have no idea.
Power wash had a mind of its own?
I don't know. No idea. It happens, stuff like that happens all the time. But we'll look at, see what we can do, but that's,
I've never power washed off something off a house like that before.
it wasn't you.
I know.
I'm not even sure the person that knew they were doing it either, unfortunately. But that problem's been fixed. It won't happen. You can spray it like crazy now if you want. I don't care. It's all fixed.
It's all good. All right.
Yeah,
We have nothing for them.
yeah, they're all good asks.
It is what it is. We've been so tight the last 2 years, so
No.
at some point you have to ask.
All right, well, thank you for all your help, all your work.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, fix that signal down there, will you?
Let me see your
Just give me
phone.
his phone. That's your phone over.
No, it wasn't.
I'll tell you what,
It's been through worse.
Bob, come on.
Keep forgetting Kevin.
No, I don't. No, I
So
don't.
I did miss
I would
one
get rid of
item.
that one if I
Oh,
could.
yeah, these
I
little
did miss
things.
one item. It was the PSNH Eversource rebate check in the sum of $6,388.20.
Yes, I'd like the vote, so that this is, you may recall, with the conversion to the, LED streetlights. The town was
Way all
supposed to
better?
get a rebate from Eversource.
I'll tell you
When I
tomorrow.
went back in the program before, it was gonna be 4,500.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
think, I thought Troy had said something at a meeting earlier in the year about 3,000, but anyway, it seems to be $6,388.20. So I'd like you guys to vote to accept it. It's under 10 grand, so I don't have to, do a hearing.
Do we have a motion to accept?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Leary,
Second.
second by Mr. LaSalle's. All those in favor, Mr. Leary,
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's,
Aye.
Ms. Queenan,
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0. Next we have is the TA report. Do you have anything to report?
Thank you. Just a little bit. So I'd like to thank the beautification group for the picnic table that they donated to the town hall, which I think is out, on that side. So I'd like, the selectmen to motion to accept the donation from them. It's a nice table.
Who donated it?
The
Beautification.
beautification group.
Oh, really?
That guy
Yeah,
right
cause
there.
our other one rotted away and was falling
was
apart, and all
awful.
of a sudden one day, one popped up.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Nope, it wasn't him.
It was a deer. I made the motion to accept.
We have a
Okay.
motion by Ms. Queenan,
Second.
second by Mr. LaSalle's. All in favor, Mr. Leary,
Aye.
LaSalle's,
Aye.
Ms. Queenan,
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. And then I had the road salt salt contract came in. The price went up $7.22 per ton. Was 72, it's now 79.22 a ton. An increase of 12,996 in what we budgeted.
There goes Kevin's budget.
So I don't know if you guys wanna, change that, wait till it goes to budget committee, but yeah.
We usually take a look at everything one more time before it goes, right?
Well, it has to be with budget committee the 22nd, and next week is kind of our last. So I'll
next week we
do
go
a
through
little
all of them.
memo with, so we go through the last and probably any.
Fire. Then I thought we had one more
We have
time.
all the big ones now,
Oh,
yeah.
thought we always had one more where we look at the
thought we
whole
did
thing.
Maybe after?
Yeah.
Cause we've gone to them, we don't have insurance rates in yet, so we have no health insurance rates, we have no dental insurance rates, we don't have workers' comp. Unemployment's usually not that much, but we don't have property liability, so there's a lot, we're still waiting for, so I
Road and
think,
salt is a known
yeah,
figure. We might as well put it there.
yeah, I think you should change it. I mean, we haven't voted on it, but I just wanted to let you know that
Yeah.
I would
think
like
you
to
should
change it in
the-
this budget, okay?
Yeah, change it.
And then I'll look at electricity and let you know next week
Okay.
what that is. And, that's it for me.
Thank you. Ms. Queenan?
What are we doing, reports?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, planning board. Did you hang around for that? Our next meeting will be Tuesday, September 20th, 7 PM here at the town hall. Our last meeting was September 6th. What we discussed was, it started out as affordable housing, and it started to morph into workforce housing. So we had a developer in the room who discussed developer costs. The affordability definition was looked at for workforce housing. That is a dual income of $122,000 of combined earned income with a home cost of approximately $350,000. Rents, are going high. So we were stuck in inflation mode with no limit in sight at the moment for affordable homes or, so regional statistics were discussed. We were discussing workforce housing. If Litchfield did do workforce housing, what does that do for statistics for our town? It's not measured by town, it's measured by region. So when the state looks at statistics, what do we have for workforce housing in our region, okay? So after we've realized costs are $1 million a house and income has to be a minimum of whatever, 122,000 to qualify, the realistic pathway that we see so far to make it work is denser population on smaller lots such as apartments, townhomes, etc. That's how the formula will work for the developer, and that's how it'll work for the formula for workforce housing. Not saying we're doing anything in town, we were just having the discussion about that. Home occupation.
Where does, excuse me, Kim.
Sure, yeah.
Where does that leave the proposed development down in the south end of town? That,
You're talking about the manufactured homes?
yes.
Yeah, that didn't factor into that. That was now rezoned. Didn't zoning go after that and redid that, Michael? They went in front of zoning and I think it was affordable homes, right? I think they qualified for $350,000 or less.
Oh, so it's gone from 200 to 350?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the price of those homes are, but the threshold to be considered affordable is $350,000 or less. We're gonna look at master plan chapters, natural resources with all the water discussions going on, just to see where we are at. We're gonna finalize the facilities chapter, we're waiting for the SIP and economics. There's no update on the Albuquerque signage issue yet, going back and forth on the roads yet. National Regional Planning Commission, our next quarterly meeting is September 21st, 7 p.m., 30 Temple Street in Nashua. An update on the 10-year transportation plan. Litchfield applied for 2 grants. We applied for the intersection improvements at Route 3A Corning Road and a sidewalk extension on Pinecrest from Hildreth Road to Albuquerque Ave. This Wednesday, September 14th, our TTAC representative was supposed to go to NRPC and go over the grant proposals with that committee. We just signed, that was gonna be the new town administrator, or the road agent or highway person, right?
Yeah.
Jay Mancara says some of the towns do send a road agent or highway department manager as their first choice, town manager or administrator second, but it depends on town. So whatever was decided here is fine. Jay Mancara is going to do our presentation for us on Wednesday. All right? Capital Improvement Plan Committee, our next meeting is this Thursday, September 15th at 6 p.m. here at the Town Hall. At our last meeting, I'll go through this briefly, the Conservation Commission came in. Jason handed these wonderful things out. I won't go over what he did, but you know what that handout that he had there. The Police Department came in. They went over the current SIP plan. They agree with the numbers. Also conservation, back to conservation, you're gonna leave the SIP plan numbers the way they were for the past. All right, the police department basically is keeping them almost the same. It's just, he looked at the design of the facility. He says there's been a rise in domestic violence when someone is placed in custody who may also have firearms. The police need a place to safely store those firearms. To follow best practices, when we build that new building and the architecture finally looks at the final copy, a detention facility area needs to have a better evidence room. There's been an increase in assaults, so bodily fluids and DNA need to be preserved, sometimes in freezers. For DNA, we do not have an adequate facility, so we currently put them in the hallway. This is not best practice. We need an area, equipment to handle fluids, DNA properly, and probably a freezer. On a busy day, there can be up to 10 or 11 officers working in one small room. It's tough. So when the final architect plans are to be done, please make sure the best practice items can be done, that officers have an adequate place to do work in correct size rooms. I'll leave the dispatch area alone. There's gonna be a software upgrade. John, I think they're gonna introduce some more monitors into the dispatch area over there. Okay. The fire department did come in and gave us an update on the truck, our least oldest truck. I guess they had come in here and asked for $48,000 to do the maintenance, and we had given them $60,000 to do it. They're not sure that's gonna cover it. All right. The second truck is 1995, and I'm not gonna go too far into this, but they need approximately $62,000 more to bring it up to shape, and that after that, its still total value is still $7,000 if you try to sell it. What they did say is last year, the cost of the fire truck that went to warrant article was $680,000, and now the cost, if booked now, will be $748,000, up $68,000. In January this year, there was a 5 to 7% increase. It also had a lead time for delivery is now 2.5 years. Okay, now not the place we're looking at, but a different manufacturing company, Hudson, the town of Hudson and Wolfboro booked a new fire truck with a different company than we're using. They were already contacted by the company that we're gonna have to up the price. Wolfboro is gonna sue them, and Hudson paid the money because they know they can't get the fire truck any sooner. They're gonna pay the money. That's not who we're going with. They're continuing to look for the used fire trucks. I don't know, this seems to be fluid. Do you think they found a fire truck? As of this time, they did.
Well, they had found one. I don't know if they
Okay.
reacted quick enough to get to it.
They found one that was 8 to 9 years old for $425,000. Because of that lead time and price, 65 fire departments bid on that, and you have to show up with cash in hand.
Yep.
So, and you'd have to send 2 people out with a mechanic to look at it, hotels, fuel, and find a way to get the truck back, whether it's a flatbed or driving it back, So right now, they are looking at fire trucks and grants. Paul Kelly will do the grants, he's gonna take a grant writing course on that. The last thing I'll say here is, the SIP group, I think it was Kerry Douglas, made a suggestion to think about it from a budgeting forward planning point of view, to maybe raise $150,000 a year to be placed into an apparatus account, a capital reserve account. So this means on the SIP plan to add another line for $150,000 a year, so when we do need a fire truck, maybe in the future for the 1995 one that's coming up, maybe there'll be some money there. So they're still thinking, they hope they get some ARPA funds and part of the money from a warrant article. The final report is the Historical Society. I was at a meeting, somebody mentioned something briefly, and I just wanted to run it by us. It said, and I have this as follow-up to be done. In the future, metal detecting on town land may require written permission from the town. I will inquire on the status of this policy. I don't know what's going on with that. Does anybody have any input on that?
I can fill you in.
Okay.
I don't know, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago maybe, I was working at the old town hall, and a couple of fellas came in, and I knew who they were. They were gonna go across the street and do a little prospecting. So they said hello to me, and I walked over and asked them what they were doing, and they said they were gonna go dig up some stuff, and I said, you can't do that. That is now deemed a state archaeological site. And they said, oh, we're gonna be in the river. Well, the river is part of all of that because of the flood of 36 that washed away what was the town center. There's still remnants there, and they didn't want to hear about it. So they went down there, and I kept telling them, don't go down. I was trying to be a nice guy, don't go down there. Well, right after they went down there, Stephen Calawa drove in, and I told him, he comes by here 3 or 4 times a day, and he came down, and I'm like, they're down there. So he was gonna go down there, and I did not want him to. So I called the police. They sent some people out. They met them when they came back up, and I don't know if they told them they didn't get anything or not, but that night they posted online that they found a bunch of stuff. Coins dating back to 1700 and things like that. And they also put a shout out to the person who had nothing better to do than to call the cops, so it's me. And so we've been talking about what we need to do to stop this from happening. Now, there is a kiosk there that says you're not supposed to go down and do that, but maybe we make it a town ordinance that you don't dig on town land, period, without permission.
I can't imagine why you wouldn't do that. Although I see people across the street at the school detecting, and they don't dig deep, but they probably go down 6 inches. But they're detecting for coins, basically. Although I don't know who carries coins anymore. But probably rings and stuff, you know. But
could be old coins too. If you
yeah,
go back far enough, the
you're
coins were all
you're
made out
right.
of gold. and
The
silver.
older the better.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that do it. It's a marvelous hobby, but you're right. You have to nip it in the bud somehow.
You gotta be respectful. That's the bottom line.
So is this gonna be a policy, or
I think it should be.
have a written permission, or, I'm not sure how this works, so. I don't know, that's why I'm asking, I just heard it and
I
I
think it should
said,
be a
oh, I don't know what
Yeah,
that
I mean,
means.
you'd probably have to bring an ordinance forward.
Do you want a zoning ordinance for it, or is it a town hall
I would make it
policy?
a
I
town,
wasn't
I
sure.
would make it a town
Town
policy.
ordinance.
Yep,
You want a town ordinance, not a zoning ordinance?
yep, I'd make it a town one.
What do you
Because
think?
we can have backup from the boys in blue next door if we
Yeah,
need
it's
that.
town.
Oh, is anybody else?
Now, if it's private land, we don't get involved with that.
That's
No,
correct.
Just for town land.
Just for town land,
Right.
yep,
Correct.
yep. They need to get homeowners, landowners' permission to go on private property.
Right.
And that town land would include school land.
That, they'd have to go to the school
What you're
probably.
saying.
The school owns that
Yep,
land.
so, and we don't have any say over them.
Okay, all right.
And I'll, everything I just read, I'll send to our poor interpreter, Matt, so he doesn't have to listen to me talk quickly. I'll email this to Matt for the minutes, so they'll be in the minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, it was long.
Rec Commission, we meet tomorrow evening. What's the big thing on our dock? It's probably what? Field maintenance contract? It's that one. School facility improvement, we meet Wednesday. I did have a meeting with the town of Hudson concerning the water system and how they went about purchasing the water system way back when. It's a great conversation. I never realized how interdependent our two systems are between Hudson and us. They actually monitor a lot of the flow in our system because it affects their system. So they probably know more about our system than we know about it. It was interesting to learn that our whole entire system is already mapped, and everybody knows everything about it and how the water goes. There was a consultant there who spoke a little bit about it, was extremely knowledgeable. There is some legalities out there. If a developer put the system in, or if another agency put it in, does Pennachuck actually own that water system? So it looks like the PUC is leaning to the part that if they didn't put it in, they don't own it. So if you look at the majority of our system, 60% of it was put in by developers or Saint-Gobain. So they think mathematically, it could be good for, from a dollar standpoint, for us to buy out the system. So moving forward, I think as the board, what we should do is just put out a request for quote. They could actually, somebody could come forth, say, hey, we can go out and do a complete analysis on what the cost of this system would be. And from there, we could go and do it. And speculation was, that study could be anywhere from $10,000 to $40,000. So it could be a perfect use for ARPA funds.
Agreed.
At least this point, because this process will take at least 3 years, because it's gonna take us probably 8 months just to get the analysis. After we get the analysis, we have to decide, do we wanna go forth with a warrant? And so forth for it. But I think based on that conversation, it was something we really should go and investigate.
The other development on that is that Manchester is now expanding their regional relationship with various towns. And they're actually being quite aggressive.
Yeah.
As far away as Pelham and Wyndham and.
There's a water shortage, that's what's driving a lot of that. They're trying to make the systems different from where they actually get their water from.
But all those folks that pay their bills to the Manchester Water District can attest to how cheap the Manchester water is. And from what I heard, and all I've heard is over the news, but Massabesic has not gone down, even during this drought. It really has maintained its level pretty good. And their usage is way up, so.
And I think it was you that said before that when Hudson took over theirs, 20-something years ago, their rates have not gone up.
Their rates have not gone up in 22 years.
I mean, that in itself.
That's an eye-opener.
How does the water get through the pipes? Do we need our own pumping station? How would
No,
that?
everything comes through our pipes already. So there's a line that comes feeding through the Merrimack right now. That comes right across from Page or Talent. Talent right there. And then there's actually, 3 wells in town that it goes through, and then there's a connection on the north end of
So
town.
Pennachuck isn't involved in the water flow itself, just the infrastructure. So if we can get our own infrastructure, you're saying we
Well, the
don't need anything
infrastructure's
else?
there. You need to buy the infrastructure, right? Then after you buy the infrastructure, then you have to go buy water, and you have to maintain the system. So we're so interdependent with Hudson, there's probably a cost share there on maintaining the system. And all the flows and everything with it. And if you look at the actual system where they monitor from, it's in Litchfield, the building.
Do they have a water department?
They do have a water department, so they do their own billing and everything. They chose to bring that in-house, but when they first took it over, they had a third party do it.
I thought it was Pennachuck.
What's that?
Wasn't it Pennachuck that did it?
Actually, Pennachuck did it first for them, and from what I was told, Pennachuck does a really good job at it, but once you sever ties, like, why do you wanna go back and
Yeah.
dance with the demon?
I think it makes all the sense in the world with the snubbing that we got from the PUC this past
Yep.
year. We have to do something different, and I think we should pursue all the angles.
And we have a relatively very new system.
Yep.
And that's the other good part about it.
What about hydrant fees? Does that go down?
Goes away.
Goes away. Woo, that's a big part of the budget.
Away.
Goes away. Good.
So,
We need to remember that when we talk to the voters.
yeah. So I think it's just, I mean, right now, I think it's a dollar value that we probably can use funding for and go off and do the analysis for the community and come back and show them what the, what the return of investment is. And what would the rate potentially be
Yep.
when it's paid for?
Yes. Kevin, what do you think?
I think you're on the right track with this. I think the ARPA funds would be good to look at the evaluation. There's those 3 wells in town, there was 4. 2 of them have ironed out and can't use the wells in, okay? But I like the idea that Manchester side, because that's lakeable water, and their water line goes through the town just about now. It's at the north end of town. Okay, so we can connect that through. So I think it's a good idea to research that, okay, to see how much it is, because to be honest with you, the Pennachuck East is where the problem is, and the PUC has not been helpful at all.
Good. Thank you.
I think the next step is to contract with a consulting firm for a valuation assessment.
Correct, and let's not do a request for proposal, because if we do, we have to write specifications that they're gonna propose to.
Correct.
Go out for a request for quotation, and let them tell what they're gonna do for us.
Yep.
It makes the process a whole lot easier on our side.
And thanks for waking me up, Bobby.
No problem. Wash your hands.
All right, Mr. Larry, you're up.
Budget meets next week. We haven't met in a while.
Mr. LaSalle's?
Well, I just want to start off by thanking the first responders who came over Thursday morning and pounded some sense in my head and took me to the hospital. And I was, of course, going to go with Steve on that meeting and had a very busy day planned, and of course it didn't work out. But I just want to thank those folks. I'm glad I had a meeting here at the town hall, and because that kind of forced the hand, and I just want to thank them for everything that they did. And as you can see, I'm here tonight. I got out of the hospital on Saturday, and hopefully I'm on the way to recovery. And my wife got out of the hospital on Friday, so we were in the same hospital, different floors, but I was in a room with another gentleman from Litchfield, and we had some, became fast friends, but you just never know when you need help, you know? So, thank you. As far as the other reports there, we haven't had any Heritage Commission activity. Progress still goes with Dark Hole, but nothing new as far as I can tell. And nothing in the way of civil, what is it? I'm having.
Emergency management?
Yeah, emergency management. So, big day tomorrow at the polls. I have to tell everybody, we got primaries tomorrow, a lot of big races. And if you don't go to the polls and vote, the political ads will continue. If you go to the polls and vote, the ads stop. So that's the motivator.
Good luck. All right, thank you, Mr. LaSalle's. That concludes our public session for this evening. We do have two more items in a non-public session. One is under RSA 91A:32A, compensation of a public employee. And the other is RSA 91A:32B, hiring of a public employee. Do we have a motion to go into non-public?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Leary,
Second.
second by Ms. Queenan. Roll call vote. Ms. Queenan?
Hold on. Yes. Aye.
I am a yes.
I get that one confused.
Sure.
Mr. LaSalle's?
Yes.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
All right, the board is now entering a non-public session. While we do not anticipate the need to return to a public session following the non-public session for any reason other than to adjourn the meeting, we reserve the right to do so if the non-public session necessitates the board taking actions. We are now going into non-session. Thank you for tuning in, and everybody be well.